In the forgotten village of Graywick, nestled in a valley where the sun never seemed to linger, the fog was a living thing. It curled through the streets like ghostly fingers, muffling sound and swallowing light. The villagers, a superstitious lot, spoke in hushed tones of the old stone tower on the outskirts, its silhouette barely visible through the haze. They called it the Keeper's Spire, though no one could recall who had built it or why. All they knew was the lantern that burned within, a sickly green flame that never went out. No matter the wind or rain. Elias, a drifter with a weathered coat and a past he didn't speak of, arrived in Graywick on a late autumn evening. He'd been chasing rumors of work, but the village was nearly deserted, its cobblestone paths empty save for the occasional flicker of candlelight behind shuttered windows. At the only inn, a crooked building called the Hollowed Oak, the innkeeper, a gaunt woman named Mara, eyed him warily. "You're not from here," she said, sliding a mug of tepid ale across the counter. "What brings you to Graywick?" "Passing through," Elias replied, his voice low. "Heard there might be coin for odd jobs." Mara's lips tightened. "No jobs here. Not unless you're fool enough to go near the spire." Elias raised an eyebrow. "The spire?" She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "The Keeper's Spire. They say the lantern inside chooses its keeper. Once it does, you're bound to it. No one's seen the last keeper, old man Corin, in years, but that light still burns." Elias snorted, dismissing it as village superstition, but Mara's eyes held no jest. "Stay away," she warned. "Those who go up don't come back the same." That night, as Elias lay in his creaking bed, the fog pressed against the window, and he swore he heard whispers, not words, but a low, guttural hum like a voice trapped in the mist. Sleep eluded him, and by dawn, curiosity gnawed at his resolve. He'd seen strange things in his travels, cursed relics, haunted forests, but a lantern? That was new. The spire loomed on the village's edge, a crumbling tower of black stone that seemed to drink in the light. The air grew colder as Elias approached, his breath visible despite the mild autumn air. The door, heavy oak banded with iron, stood ajar, creaking on rusted hinges. Inside, a spiral staircase wound upward, its steps slick with moss. The green glow pulsed from above, casting eerie shadows that seemed to writhe. Elias climbed, his boots echoing in the hollow tower. The air grew thick, heavy with the scent of damp stone and something metallic like old blood. At the top, he found the lantern, a brass cage, ornate but tarnished, hanging from a chain in the center of a circular chamber. Its flame flickered, not with the warmth of fire, but with a cold, unnatural light that made his skin crawl. Beneath it, on the floor, lay a pile of bones, human, arranged in a perfect circle. He stepped back, heart pounding. The whispers returned, louder now, a chorus of voices overlapping, unintelligible but urgent. He turned to leave, but the door at the base of the stairs slammed shut with a force that shook the tower. The lantern's light flared, and Elias felt a pull like invisible hands tugging at his soul. "You're here," a voice rasped, not from the room but from inside his head. It was dry, ancient, and cruel. "The lantern needs a keeper." Elias stumbled, clutching his temples. "Who's there?" he shouted, but the only answer was the hum, now a deafening roar. The bones on the floor rattled, reassembling into a skeletal figure that stood, its empty sockets glowing with the same green light. It pointed at him, and the lantern's flame surged, bathing the room in blinding emerald. "You cannot leave," the voice said. "The light must burn." Elias bolted for the stairs, but the steps seemed to stretch endlessly, looping back to the chamber no matter how fast he ran. Panic clawed at his chest. He grabbed a loose stone from the wall and hurled it at the lantern, hoping to shatter it. The stone passed through as if the lantern were a mirage, clattering harmlessly to the floor. The skeletal figure laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Days blurred into nights, or perhaps there was no time in the spire. Elias couldn't tell. The lantern's light never dimmed, and the whispers never stopped. They told him things, secrets. Of Greywick, of keepers before him, of the lantern's hunger. It fed on souls, they said, binding one keeper after another to keep its flame alive. Old man Corin's bones were proof, as were the countless others buried beneath the tower. Elias tried everything to escape. He pried at the door, clawed at. The walls even screamed for help until his voice gave out. But the spire was a prison, and the lantern its warden. The whispers grew personal, taunting him with memories he'd buried, his sister's death, the fire he'd fled, the guilt that had driven him to wander. "You belong here," they said. "You always did." On what he guessed was the third day, Elias noticed something new. The lantern's chain swayed slightly, though there was no breeze. He approached, wary, and saw faint etchings on the brass cymbals, words in a language he didn't know. As he stared, the flame pulsed, and a vision flooded his mind, a ritual. A blood offering, a way to break the bond. But it required a sacrifice not his own, but another's. Elias recoiled. He wasn't a killer, not like that. But the whispers pressed, promising freedom, promising peace. He thought of Mara, the innkeeper, her suspicious eyes and cryptic warnings. Had she known? Had she sent him here, knowing what awaited? He shook, his head trying to silence the voices. But the lantern's pull was relentless, and his strength was fading. His hands trembled, his vision blurred, and the green light seemed to seep into his veins, cold and invasive. He saw himself in the flame, not as he was, but as a hollowed-out husk, eyes glowing, bound to the spire forever. Desperation drove him back to the village. The door opened this time, as if the lantern knew his intent. Greywick was silent, the fog thicker than ever. The hollowed oak was empty, its hearth cold. Mara stood behind the counter, polishing a glass, unsurprised. "By his return, you went?" she said, not meeting his eyes. "And it let you out. What is it?" Elias demanded, voice hoarse. "What's in that tower?" Mara sighed, setting the glass down. "It's older than Greywick, older than us all. It chooses its keeper, and it doesn't let go. Corin tried to fight it. So did the others. They all failed." "You knew," Elias spat. "You sent me there." "I warned you," she said sharply. "But you went anyway. The lantern calls to those who belong to it." Elias's hands shook with rage and fear. "There's a ritual," he said. Way to break it. But it needs blood," Mara finished, her voice flat. "Always blood." He stared at her, the whispers urging him forward, promising release. His hand drifted to the knife at his belt. Mara didn't move, didn't flinch. "Do it," she said softly, "if you think it'll save you." Lilith's grip tightened, but he hesitated. The lantern's voice roared in his mind, drowning out his thoughts. He saw himself plunging the knife into Mara, saw the flame dim, saw himself free. But he also saw the bones, the endless keepers, the cycle unbroken. He dropped the knife, stumbling. "Back, no," he gasped. "I won't." Mara's eyes softened, just for a moment. "Then you're stronger than most." He ran back to the spire, the fog chasing him, the whispers screaming. The lantern waited, its light brighter, hungrier. Elias stood before it, panting, and made his choice. He grabbed the lantern, ignoring the searing cold that burned his hands, and smashed it against the floor. The brass dented, but the flame only grew, engulfing the room. The skeletal figure rose again, its laughter deafening. "You cannot break what is eternal," it said. "You are the keeper now," Elias screamed as the light consumed him. When it faded, he was still in the spire, but the bones were gone. The lantern hung pristine, its flame steady. He felt it in his chest, a cold, endless weight. He was bound just as the voices had promised. Back in Greywick, Mara locked the inn's door, her hand steady. The fog thickened, hiding the spire from view. Another keeper chosen, another soul claimed. She lit a candle, its warm light a frail defiance against the green glow that pulsed in the distance, waiting for the next wanderer to answer its call.